So welcome back to the first part of the workshop, and we will continue in the high latitude dust modeling and in situ measurement of dust and gases session. And Ote will now introduce the first speaker.
Yes, welcome back. So our first speaker will be Niko Karvosenoja from Finland, and he has collaborated with Icelandic colleagues previously and is now here for the first time in the high latitude dust workshop. And he's from the Environmental Institute of Finland. So welcome, Niko.
Thank you, Outi. Great. Yes. Okay. Hello, everybody. So my name is Niko Karvosenoja. I work as a researcher and group manager at Finnish Environment Institute in Air Pollution Group in Climate Solutions Unit. And our group is responsible for official Finnish emission inventories reporting to different international bodies. And because we are in a dust seminar, my short talk will be about how these emission inventories treat dust sources, dust emissions. Because all this dust project, which is the reason also why I'm here, our role in the project is to estimate, assess road dust emissions. So I will pay special attention to road dust in my talk. And we are also providing emission data, emission inventories to different air quality modeling applications. So I will raise a couple of notes on the use of emission inventories as part of air quality modeling. So from our point of view, so I am in no means an air quality modeling expert, but luckily we have modelers here as well. So Andreas and others can then correct me whenever needed. Okay, dust and emission inventory. So I will talk mainly from official national air pollution emission inventory point of view that are reported to, for instance, UNECE LERTAP Convention and EU NEC Directive. And these emission inventories, they describe emissions from anthropogenic, so man-made sources. And what do these anthropogenic sources mean? What they cover? They are defined in the EMEP emission factor guidebooks. For instance, for road dust emissions, they are defined to include emissions from the wear of road surfaces, wear of tires and brakes, but not resuspension of dust from road surfaces. So this is an important point, what the emission inventories cover and what not. These guidebooks, they give default emission factors to different sources to countries, but they also allow countries to use their own methods to take different country-specific circumstances into account. For road dust, for instance, in Finland, the use of studded tires is a very important component in road surface wear emissions, and we can take this into account with our with using national methods in the inventories. Road dust, it's not the only dust source in the inventory, so they include also sources like mining and handling and storage of different fuels and materials, dust from agricultural activities, dust from animal shelters, field preparation and harvesting activities, and dust from different construction and demolition activities of buildings and infrastructure. So we will have this CAM session later this afternoon. I am not myself directly involved in CAM's work, but we collaborate with many partners that are, for instance, the TNO Institute in the Netherlands, who provide with the CAMSREC emission products. And these CAMSRECs, they are more or less a collection of national inventories, at least the European versions. So in that sense, what I say here also apply to CAMS to some extent. But then, of course, there are different versions, and as Andreas also said, it's not always clear, for instance, if road dust is included in one of the products or not. So that's important to know to not to double count emissions. Okay. So I plotted here just very quickly Finnish latest reported PM10 emissions in a very aggregated manner. So to show you the order of magnitude contribution of dust sources in the whole of the total emissions. So you can see that the road dust emissions contribute to roughly quarter of the total country emissions, and most of it comes during springtime when the road surfaces dry up, and it can be quite dusty, as you can see from the photograph there. And we have also an emission map tool where you can look at the emissions on the map at 250-meter resolution for the whole of Finland, available on this address. The lighter gray color is the other dust sources from many sectors, contributing to some 80% more, and then the rest is the reddish color is then combustion and other industrial hot process based particle emissions, primary particle emissions. And you can see that actually the transport traffic exhaust emissions already now is quite small in PM10, so only 56%. So that means that for urban areas, road dust is even more important than what is for the picture for the whole country. Okay, I will just briefly show what other research we do with road dust at Finnish Environment Institute. So we do road dust measurements with our mobile laboratories, and also by sampling directly from the roads. We do road dust modeling mainly as a Nordic collaboration, and we also work closely with the policymakers so that we provide assessment of how to mitigate road dust emissions and find solutions to improve air quality. And also we collaborate with municipalities and contractors who are doing the actual street maintenance work to find best practices and disseminate results. Okay, maybe not more about that, but I would like to then raise a couple of points about challenges in using emission inventories in air quality modeling. So these national or wider level inventories, they are used as input to models for the part of anthropogenic emissions, but of course models, they want to have all the emissions that to get the full representation of sources that influence air quality, so they can use some other databases of natural emissions and also proxies or parametrizations to complement the picture, as Andreas and others have already showed. So, for instance, for road dust, we remember that resuspension, it's not included, at least in this official inventory, so that there might be a need to take that into account somehow. And also the boundaries between anthropogenic and natural sources are not always straightforward to define in emission inventories. So also anthropogenic activities like traffic also resuspends emissions that are of natural origin. I could imagine that might be relevant for Iceland, for instance. I could imagine that volcanic dust might play a role also in traffic dust issue here. It would be really great to learn more about that while we are here. So there are challenges to get the emission inputs right. So risks of double counting or missing important emission sources. So this is my last slide. So I have gathered a sort of summary or recommendations from my talk here. So first, emission inventory guidebooks should adequately cover the main dust sources and allow to take country-specific circumstances into account. Well, I'm not saying that this is not the case, but at least that should be one priority in the future development of the inventories, because we know that tailpipe emissions and other combustion-based emissions are getting smaller in the future, so dust emissions will become even more important in the future. Then air quality modelers should understand the emission inventories, what they cover, and be aware of risks of double counting or omitting important emissions. Then about road dust, it's a major source of urban PM10, and it is highly country and area specific. So like have been shown here already earlier. So in both of terms of different practices of winter friction control or road maintenance, such as use of studded tires or road sanding or street cleaning practices, and also in terms of meteorological and other conditions. So both emission inventory and air quality modeling experts should understand and take into account these emissions better than maybe it's the case at the moment. And finally, all this IBA-ILMA project is a great opportunity for us to learn about these things, and we are really eager to learn about road dust issues and characteristics here in Reykjavik and Iceland. So thank you very much for your attention. and I'm happy to hear your comments and answer questions.
Excellent, Nico. Thank you. So are there questions in the audience? Yes, please.
From a measurement perspective, how do you separate surface emissions from resuspension measurements?
Yeah, that's a tricky thing. Yeah, I don't. So it is basically we do both. We assess both. So we with our measurements we try to cover all the including resuspension emissions. But then for the inventories, it is a different approach. So it is more like an activity emission factor approach, more simple approach, and also that it is decided for these European guidebooks that it should exclude resuspension because it makes things more tricky, I guess. But of course, it's very difficult to to define which is which. So I'm afraid I don't have an answer on that. Yeah.
Okay, any other question? Yes, please.
Maybe not question, maybe more speculations regarding the guidebook. As I understand the guidebook does not exclude the resuspension. It doesn't take it into account, but every country has, I would say, can create their own national emission factor for if you have some detailed information about it. It could be included. I think here in Iceland we don't include it, but we should also do it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I myself, I'm not for these official inventories. I'm not an expert, but it notes the guidebook notes that specifically that resuspension is excluded.
Okay, it does that. Okay.
There is a note.
Okay,
yes.
okay. I would think it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But it is a little bit confusing.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because as you said, there is a freedom to use also own methods, but it says that it shouldn't take into account resuspension. But yeah,
okay.
How to define that? So it is.
Okay.
Actually, our estimate in the inventories, in the official inventories, it is not that much lower than the one when we take resuspension part into account. So, but what is what? So it's not easy. It's something like maybe 40–50% lower emission.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Nico. And next, we have a short comment.
No.
Yes.
There is still
yes. Yes. So Nico's presentation was a little bit shorter than in the program, so we are a little bit behind the schedule. But we have kindly one person who has promised to show us a data portal that is very significant to all the participants of this workshop. So maybe you all know the Professor Olafur Arnalds, who is the father of Icelandic soils and has now retired, but his work is included in the data portal where there are other data sources as well. So Marco Pizzolato, yes, will kindly present the web page where this data can be found. Thank you, Marco.
Yes. Is the screen already shared?
Yes.
Share screen. Yes. So my name is Marco Pizzolato, and I'm from the National Land Survey of Iceland. And I'm here to present you the metadata portal. As I have heard from many of you that you're trying to use data and sometimes find some data and maybe you're missing some more information for your models. So at the National Land Survey, we put together a metadata portal where you can find many data sets relevant to Iceland. So this is the link. Just writing this part is enough, and you will get a good. You will get on the page, which looks like this. You have a button on the on your right side to switch the language to English, and you have many data sets underneath. You can browse them by topics, for example, an Inspire classified or different classification, and you can also look for them in the search. Exactly. So there's plenty of data sets, and I think the most relevant maybe for this conference are the soil, geology, land cover, environmental monitoring, and maybe hydrography, maybe also elevation, and that's all data that you can find in the metadata portal. For example, here we can see the erosion map or like some classification. If we, for example, choose the soil classification map, it comes with a Icelandic description, and then there is a English description with more information where with documentation to read. Each of those data sets have also a person responsible, have links where to download it, how to connect it into and stream the data. So there's all the information on where to find it, what's the website, how to connect to it in WMS or WFS connections, and the person which is responsible for it. So if there's questions, you can just contact someone, which makes it easier and accessible the data for the use. And so as Oti said, it's a shorter presentation, and just to show you this possibility, which many maybe are not aware, we have a good elevation model, Icelandic DEM, which is a improvement from the Arctic DEM. So that can be used, for example, for in Iceland itself. And yeah, go and check it out and have fun exploring it. And if you have questions, you can just send me an email at markopizzato@lmi.is.
Thank you very much, Marco. So this was really like in short notice. I just asked a couple of hours ago, so really amazing. So thank you so much. Yes. Okay. And yeah, so now it's, yeah, actually everything is fine and you can continue. Yes.
So that was slide change, and the next speaker is Jean-Baptiste Renard. He's from University of Orleans, and he in France, and he will talk about the vertical profile measurements of dust in Iceland. So Jean-Baptiste, are you there? Can you please start sharing your presentation?
Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Yes, I see me and hear me. Okay, I have sent you my presentation. Can you show it, or I need to share my screen? What do you prefer?
Best to share your screen so you can change the slides.
I will try to do it. Slideshow. Okay.
There is the green button, share screen.
Ah, I cannot see it. What's happened? Just 1 second. I have some problems. It's difficult. I cannot find.
If you move the mouse, maybe it will pop up.
Not. I think yes. I can do. I can. No. I'm sorry. There is a problem. Can you see it? No. No. Oh. I have lost. I'm sorry. I have lost the connection. No?
It's okay.
Can you? Well, I cannot find the icon to share my presentation on this version of.
So if you move the mouse, it should pop up the whole link, and there is a green button called share.
Okay, it's okay now. Perfect.
It's
I
a lot
think
of
it's okay.
fun, right?
Yeah.
You are starting to share. And please use the like full mode, full view
Yeah.
mode.
Yes. No, it's blocked. Okay. Is it okay now? Yeah, it's okay.
Perfect.
Oh, sorry,
No,
sometimes
no,
it's difficult. So I will make a very short presentation concerning some aerosols measurement on vertical profiles of aerosols we obtained a few years ago from Iceland. And we obtained this profile using a light aerosol counter called LOAC. And we launched this instrument under weather balloon. And in this case, the counter can reach altitude up to 25 or 30 kilometers. With such instrument, we can determine the vertical distribution of particles for 19 size classes between 0.2 and 50 micrometers. And we have a vertical resolution that depends on the concentration, but typically from 100 meters to 1 kilometer. So you can see on the left the instrument, in the middle the gondola. It's about 1 kilogram, and then a launch under a weather balloon. To describe very shortly the instrument, we perform scattering measurement of particles that cross a laser beam. We make the measurement at two scattering angles. The first one is almost insensitive to the refractive index and to the shape of the particles. And the second, on the opposite, is very sensitive to the refractive index of the particles. Then when we combine all the measurements, we can retrieve the concentration for the 19 size classes and also the main typology of particles when we make a comparison with reference measurements for the typology, reference measurement obtained in laboratory. So about a long time ago now, close to 10 years or 7 years or 8 years, we have performed 6 flights from Iceland, and 4 flights were performed during a strong tropospheric event. And it was this event was coming from volcanic dust lifted by winds from ground. And I will present you a revised version of the data. Just a few pictures showing the situation. Typically, when there is a strong dust storm, we can see a very nice color at the night, a very red sky, or during day time, we can see a kind of orange horizon. At left, this is a picture of the launch on 2 February 2016 during a strong wind condition. So the launch was difficult, but it was a real success. And because Iceland is a very small island, most of the LOAC go inside the sea, except one that we have recovered in the snow very close to a small road. So now let's go to the profiles. On the left, I will present you the vertical profile for the 19 size classes. The concentration are from the smallest size class in black to the larger particles in red. At 10 kilometers in particular, it is the presence of some cirrus. And during this flight, we see, when we are look on the typology result, a mixture of some liquid and solid particle. When it is liquid, everything is blue. When you see some color between green, orange, or red, it means that there is a presence of solid particles. But a very interesting flight was this flight on 10 January, because we see first a very high concentration level in the troposphere, up to about an altitude of 5 or 6 kilometers. And these high concentration value are correlated with the orange and red color in the typology profile, indicating that indeed we have detected strong optically particles. And when we make a recalibration in laboratory using Icelandic volcanic ashes, we find a very good match. So it is clear that we have detected such particles. But something interesting is that we have detected this particle up to about 10 or 11 kilometers, very close to the true purpose. Of course, the concentration are lower above 5 kilometers, but we have indication that this particle can reach very high altitude during such event. 2 days later, the situation was quite different. But we find, nevertheless, the presence of some solid particle, also orange and red colors on the plot, with the presence of liquid particles and probably some clouds. And again, 1 day later, the situation was different, but nevertheless, we find that some very small particles, typically below 0.3 micrometer, were also present in the whole troposphere, so up to the true purpose. For the larger particle, we detect mainly water droplet. When we combine all these measurements in extinction, we have detected very high value. Typically for the 10 January 2016 flight, we have an extinction of the order of a few 10-2, which is very high value explained by the presence of such small particles. So, to summarize, it is a very short presentation, so Pavla, you will be happy with that, I think. There is 2 main results from this flight. First, during a strong dust event, we can find dust everywhere in the troposphere, at least up to the true purpose. And something also very interesting, during this event, we have detected only small particles. Almost all the particles were below 1 micrometer, so it is clear that it is fine dust that can be easily vertically transported. So now, what will be the future with LOAC? We have new flight expected to be conducted at high latitude. The flight will be conducted from Kiruna, Sweden, in a few weeks, and we are on board a gondola of my colleague Thomas Kuhn from Luleå University. These flights are dedicated to the measurements of ice clouds, but ice particles also, but of course, we can have the possibility of a fortuitous detection of transported dust. And a new LOAC, we call LOAC 2, will be available in a few weeks. And with this instrument, we will have an improved electronic, and we perform measurement at 4 scattering angles to better determine the typology of the particles. The first flight is expected next month. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jean-Baptiste, and amazing plans you have. I would just add to your presentation that for the observation of the LOAC here in Iceland, there was a clear satellite picture showing quite high dust plume, and also Calypso detected it for the same days. The dust actually, it was a column up to 5 kilometers. And one more thing was that there was a really strong polar vortex at the time. So it seems that the dust was actually circulating for several days already inside the vortex. So are there any questions for Jean-Baptiste? Okay.
It's not necessary if you want to go to lunch.
So one quick question here in the room.
Just a quick one. Thank you for the presentation. What time of day were the profiles taken? Specifically that 10th of January one?
Sorry, the sound is not very good. I have not
What time
heard.
did you take the flight on the
sorry.
10th?
The flights were performing at the end of the morning. All the flights were typically. Do you remember, Pavla? But I think
it was
at
pretty light, so it wasn't such morning. I would say at least 11 o'clock because
yeah, something like that. Yes. or 12 o'clock, yes, just after lunch.
7 and 1,
Okay,
something
It's
like
the mid-time flight.
yeah, in Hvalfjörður, and we had to drive there. Okay, thank you very much, Jean-Baptiste.
Thank you.
So I would now like to thank again all the speakers of this session. Now 3 or 4 very important announcements before we move to the lunch.
Okay, so first of all, as a preliminary announcement, some of you know already that we have submitted as a High Latitude Dust community an European Union funding proposal 2 times. I submitted, we prepared together, and we didn't get the funding. And at the time, there was this in-dust cost action that was funded. So it was likely that they would not fund 2 actions on topic of dust. But now in-dust is ended, and the time seems to be correct for proposing high latitude dust again. And the plan is that we would submit to the call that is now open and will close in October. So we should have enough time. We have already the proposal prepared. So as a preliminary info, please expect that I will ask you to join this proposal. It's then totally up to you if you want to join or not. If you are not that familiar what this kind of funding means, it, for example, means travel funds and short-term scientific missions, so visits to other institutes. And you will receive more information also on that via email. Okay, that's all from me.
Amazing. Also, you are so brave to always lead these proposals. Thank you. And now, well, less important announcement, but practical for you on the side. So I will distribute the lunch tickets because you have to insert it. And before that, can we just all meet on the stairway and take a picture? Because as I know, Susan and Oscar have to leave very shortly. So before lunch, we will just go there on the stairway and take picture, okay? Thank you. And then, of course, very important announcement, we start at 1 o'clock again, the camp session. And before that, those you who haven't really taken the survey, which is on the agenda website, it would be very nice if you could contribute, especially the Icelandic stakeholders. Thank you.